Okay, algebra, we're going to talk about graphing square root functions. Instead of using my board like I normally would in my basement, I want to use Desmos to just give you a visual of what different square root functions look like. So I'm going to show you the basic one first. So if you, by the way, if you want to do this in Desmos, all you got to do is go into Desmos, pull up the keyboard, and you'll see a square root option. So I'm going to do just y equals the square root of x. Oops, I put two x's there. 1x. And you can clearly see that it kind of looks like a parabola, but instead of a parabola that's going vertical, it's going horizontal, it's going to the right. And you can see it's only half the parabola, though. And let's kind of think about why. Why is this only in the first quadrant? Well, because think about it. You can't plug in a negative x coordinate into this equation here. If I put in a negative number in for x, I can't take the square root of a negative number. So that's not going to work. Also, why isn't it in quadrants 3 or 4? Well, that's because in this basic equation here, no matter what, I'm going to get a positive number. No matter what I put in for x, when I take the square root, it's going to be positive. So that's why it's here. So now let's talk about moving it around a little. What if we have x plus 3? We can see all of a sudden now it does move to the left, and all of a sudden it is in the negatives. That's because we can now plug negative numbers in. We can plug anything that's -3 or greater, and it's going to work. But I can't plug in -4 because -4 plus 3 would be -1, and you couldn't take the square root of a negative number. So what if we went the other way and we did -3? You can see now it moves to the right. So when you have numbers being added or subtracted under the square root, it's just going to move them the opposite of what you'd think. So -3 actually moves it to the right 3 because I can't use like 2 because 2 minus 3 would be -1. That wouldn't work. The other scenario you're going to see is when you have numbers being added or subtracted outside of the square root. So you can see this plus 3, it's not under the square root, it's outside of it. That's going to move it up 3. If I did -3, that's going to move it down 3. So you can basically look at these and you're able to translate how it's going to move. So for example, if I were to put inside, I'm going to put a +1, and then outside, I'm going to put -2, what do you think is going to happen? Well, if I put +1 inside, it moves it to the left 1, and -2 outside would move it down 2. The one other scenario you'll see, if I go back to just our basic y equals the square root of x, if I have a number outside of this, it basically changes the shape, but it doesn't change our vertex. Our vertex is still 0, 0 here, but it does, you can see it makes it larger. If I put a number inside, you can see same thing, not as prominent, but it still is going to change the shape and make it a little wider, I guess is the word you'd use. All right, so that was kind of to give you a visual. You can go to Desmos and play around as well. All right, so that's video 1.